So the first quarterback we're going over here is going to be Brock Purdy taking on the Eagles defense that ranks 31st against opposing quarterbacks. I do expect this to be a very good game, almost like a shootout. I think the running backs in general will be held in check, and it's going to be up to the arms of these quarterbacks to really make it a fantasy viable type of option. So I look for these teams to be going back and forth, and Brock Purdy could be the recipient of having a healthy throwing day. And against this Eagles defense who you can really throw upon, but makes it almost impossible to run upon, I think it's going to be less likely that Christopher McCaffrey is the go-to guy. And it's going to be more like Brock Purdy. He's got plenty of people to throw to, whether it's Brandon Aiyuk, whether it's, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. They have a lot of options out there, and Brock Purdy definitely can make it happen as far as the fantasy football goes. I think he's a great start this week. Next quarterback here I'm going over here is with Jared Goff going against the Saints defense that ranks 13th against opposing quarterbacks. Now, I don't want you to look at the 13th rank and think, okay, that's a pretty decent defense, but you got to remember, even Marshawn Lattimore, the number one cornerback, possibly, not in the NFL, but he's up there. I mean, he's top 5 cornerback, easy man-to-man coverage. He's out, right? They pulse into Debo. He ended up getting hurt. I mean, you've got Alontae Taylor. A lot of the guys in the secondary are hurt. So Jared Goff, with Amon-Ra St. Brown and company, Sam Laporta and such, there's a lot of weapons here to really take advantage of this depleted Saints defense. It's kind of like the tale of two tapes here. The Saints are really struggling right now. They're not playing up to par, and the Lions are running on all cylinders right now. So I think overall the Lions come in here. They're very confident. They're very healthy into what they do, and I think it's a good opportunity for Jared Goff to put up a solid stat line against the Saints. Next quarterback we're talking about here is going to be Sam Howell taking on that Dolphins defense that ranks 22nd against opposing quarterbacks. Now, Sam Howell, somebody I do like here. He's had his ups and downs, his first season of being the full-time starter, and we've seen some brilliance from Sam Howell. We've also seen some really dud kind of pooping material. So it's just one of those things. What are you going to get out of Sam Howell this week against this Dolphins defense who can be beat deep? And the Commanders are going to need to throw the ball early and often to even attempt to keep pace with this Dolphins high-power offense. I think Sam Howell could put up a decent stat line for you. If one of your quarterbacks is on bye or you're really struggling due to injury, Sam Howell can be played at a pretty good clip, then I think he's got a pretty good opportunity to be something decent against this Dolphins team. So let's move it over here to running back. First guy we're going to talk about here is Rashad White going against this Panthers defense that ranks 30th against opposing running backs, and I really do like what Rashad White is doing for teams right now. I mean, he's very, very consistent. He's putting up a solid stat line. He's getting all the carries in the backfield. There's nobody even competing with him in his backfield. It is Rashad White's backfield, and against the Panthers defense that really can't stop the run whatsoever, I really love Rashad White this week. I think he dominates the Panthers. I think the Buccaneers will lean on White quite a bit in this matchup, just because they should be blowing out the Panthers, and they're just going to run the ball out all game long. Looking for Rashad White to have a ceiling type of game this week. Now we move on to Kiren Williams, who came back from IR, and I thought they were going to start him up a little slow last week, but he ended up getting the majority of the carries and dominated. Now, going against a Browns defense that ranks 12th against opposing running backs, I do think the Browns do have a decent defense, but when you're getting such a high volume that Kiren Williams is, pretty much the entire offensive carries is going to Kiren Williams. I think opportunity alone can give you enough fantasy points. Nobody's benching Kiren Williams this week. Get him in your lineup. Last running back I'm going to go over today would be Breece Hall taking on that Falcons defense that ranks 5th against opposing running backs. I do like Breece Hall. He's completely taken over the main backfield here. Dalvin Cook is not even an option here. Breece Hall is getting all of the work. Now, I know there's rumors of Aaron Rodgers coming back soon. That's really going to up his value. But as far as this week goes, he still has a poo-poo stain at the quarterback position, but that's okay. Breece Hall should be able to make a little bit of noise against this Falcons defense. I like the way that Breece Hall runs, even though, yes, the Falcons defense is pretty stout against the run. I still think Breece Hall and this offensive line can make some noise on the ground. I do like Breece Hall this week. Moving on along to the wide receiver position. First guy we're talking about is Tank Dell, and I know I said it last week and then the week before. You guys are going to get very, very tired of me talking about Tank Dell, but this dude is being phenomenal. You have to start these guys while they're hot. Tank Dell, I'm going to recommend this guy until I can't recommend him no more. This week, going against that Broncos defense, ranks 8th against opposing wide receivers, but I don't care. CJ Stroud has the Texans offense pumping out on all cylinders. I'm loving what the Houston Texans are doing right now. Tank Dell is a big part of that. Even though Nico Collins is there, Tank Dell still gets his targets, and Tank Dell can give you those big old deep balls, whether it's a 40-yard bomb, 50-yard bomb for a touchdown. I love those opportunities from a wide receiver. get Tank Dell in your lineup. Next wide receiver we're talking about here is going to be Michael Pittman. Now he's going on he's going against the Titans defense that ranks 24th against opposing wide receivers. He's building up a pretty good rapport with Gardner Minshew. I think he's putting up solid stat lines, even without like Anthony Richardson in the lineup. So I do like his opportunities here. He's getting plenty of targets. The target share is he's the #1 wide receiver in this room by far. Against this Titans defense, you know that you can beat these guys through the air. I love the opportunity that Pittman's getting week in and week out, and I think that's going to produce for you for your fantasy lineups. He's a guy definitely a start for me this week. Last wide receiver we're talking about here is Brandon Aiyuk. Again, going back to that Eagles 49ers game, I think it's going to be a stellar game, and I think Brock Purdy's going to put up some nice numbers against this porous Eagles secondary. So Brandon Aiyuk, I think, is going to be the biggest target share monster here in this game. They're going to need him to come up big to have a chance of winning this game. This is probably what you're going to see in the NFC Championship game. I strongly believe that. And Brandon Aiyuk is going to be a solid player. I mean, there's no way you're benching him either this week. Brandon Aiyuk should be very solid. One of my favorite wide receivers this week. Moving right along here to the tight end position. First guy we're talking about here is Dalton Schultz going against this Broncos defense, who ranks dead last against opposing tight ends. Again, I was kind of spoken earlier with CJ Stroud and this offense. They're pumping on all cylinders. They have weapons all over the field, whether it's Tank Dell and Nico Collins, and you got Dalton Schultz here at the tight end position. I'm really liking what the Texans are putting together. I think that Dalton Schultz has plenty of opportunities against a Broncos defense, that is absolutely cock-a-doodle against the tight end position. Dalton Schultz, don't look at a stat line from last week. I think he has the opportunity of putting up big numbers for you this week. Next tight end we're talking about here is Pat Freiermuth going against that Cardinals defense that ranks 10th up against opposing tight ends. And we saw last week with the firing of Kennedy, they had a new offensive coordinator in there, and they wanted to focus that tight end position. We saw what happened. I love Freiermuth. Look, again, I tell people all the time, strike while the coals are hot. Right now, the coals are on fire for Freiermuth. I love his opportunities. Maybe the game plan sticks with me. We need to get the tight end position more involved, which would open up the offense even more. Freiermuth should have plenty of opportunities against the Cardinals this week. Last tight end we're talking about here is Jawan Johnson, taking on that Lions defense that ranks 19th against opposing tight ends. Hear me out here. So I do expect Chris Olave to be back from that concussion. We have Rashid Shaheed. He ended up going out with an injury. I don't expect him to play this week. Michael Thomas is on IR. A.T. Perry, he's missing a lot of cues. He's not doing what he needs to. He still needs some time to develop and to become overall. Yes, they got Marcus Callaway, signed him to the practice squad. Not activated as of the recording of this video yet, but that leaves Jawan Johnson as the target. He was the second lead target for the Saints last week, right behind Chris Olave. They want to get this big target guy. He's a big body type of tight end. He's a reliable tight end. So I think he's going to be used quite a bit this week. Going against that Lions defense, like I said, ranks 19th against opposing tight ends. So it's a defense that can be beaten. So I think that the Saints are going to be probably losing this game. So they're going to be in a negative game script. So I do look for the Saints to be utilized in the pass game quite a bit. And Jawan Johnson could be the guy or the go-to guy in this offense other than Chris Olave. He should have a good game, and pretty much on the cheap, he might be even on your waivers at this point. And if you need a tight end, pick up Jawan Johnson. You'll be happy that you did. Now onto the Bengal Tiger start of the week. The Bengal Tiger start of the week is tight end Sam Laporta. Laporta is taking on the Saints defense, who already isn't bad. They're really bad at stopping the tight end. Let's just be honest, but a team that's also really missing a lot of key pieces on defense, like I mentioned earlier in the video. Looks like Laporta's primed for a big game. The Saints hasn't really been the team that we're used to seeing, and the Lions are currently clicking on all cylinders. You put 2 and 2 together, it's going to equal 4. This could be a long week for Saints fans. Sam Laporta could be headed for a boom game. Get excited if you're a Laporta owner. It's going to be a big one.